Hey everyone, welcome to Software Engineering Mini Lectures Episode 1. My name is Adam Corbin, and we'll just talk about processes and planning this lecture. It shouldn't be very long. I'm going to dive in a little bit more into process in Episode 3 about Agile, differences between Agile and Waterfall and what works and what doesn't work. But I want to talk about how important software engineering process and planning are, especially when you're in large projects. Trying to keep everyone organized is very important, and making sure everyone knows what they need to do. Otherwise, if you don't have very clear guidance, people can become demotivated and you're not getting the most efficient work out of those people. So I want to talk a little bit about processes. So for the project I working on the TrueCourse project, which has about 200 plus engineers, this is something that's extremely important to make sure everyone's in line. One, we have to follow a process for DO 178, which is basically the guidance to develop software that will be flown into planes, mainly commercial planes, especially since we have safety critical stuff where lives can be affected if we don't follow the right rules. So so part of D178, some interesting things is there's a few different levels for D178. There's level D and E all the way up to level A. Level A is very strict, where you have to have like low level testing, independence between the person doing the work and the person reviewing the work. You need to, if you do the software, you can't do the testing. So it's very strict, even going down to almost like assembly code, making sure that the compiled code matches the code that's written. This project, the TrueCourse project, is level B, so it's not as strict as level A, but it is still pretty strict on making sure that you have the right stuff. So one thing that we do use is that we have work instructions that we can distribute to the team so they know exactly what they need to do, either setting up the tools, setting up workstations, how to build the code, so that in the future, if someone comes in and we need to train people up, we just send them into the work instructions and they follow that. I recommend having work instructions in like a wiki type format where it can be live edited and people can be pointed to. Something that I spearheaded part of the TrueCourse project is having a wiki type of page. In the past, in many legacy projects that I have seen, they just kind of posted those in just the repository, and then people would download them, and then once it's downloaded, it's basically out of date. So there was a lot of conflicting information. So I highly recommend having work instructions in that online type of format. Another thing is rhythm. I think that having a rhythm helps the teams kind of have a feel and understanding of what's going to happen in the future. So I'm kind of on the liking the scrum meetings or sprints and retrospectives and demos and stuff like that. So I'll talk a little bit about that in the planning, but I mean that rhythm does help everyone get a kind of a feel of what they're doing. Otherwise they can just you'll go months down the road and you're like, I don't feel like I have a meaning of what I'm doing or understanding what's going on. So that kind of translates into the planning area. The planning is pretty important. I recommend having something like a master schedule of the whole project and basically milestones and the goals, and which brings a big picture. And I would like everyone in the project to see where that's at. So the project that I've been on, TrueCourse, it's gone in many different phases where we've had a good schedule and then it kind of fell apart, and we're wrapping it back up to have a good schedule. And I found that when we didn't have a very good schedule, there were teams kind of working in their own silos and not really working together as a big project and putting things together. So one thing that I found that, yes, you can have, even if having a master schedule, you can still execute poorly. And I found that having actually demos, whether it's quarterly or I think once a sprint might be a little bit too short of a cycle. It really depends on the environment. I know that at least for us in aviation, there's a lot of lot of process of making sure you do your requirements, making sure you do your design, making sure you do your code, do the test cases, do your testing, and doing all of that in a very short period of time, like 3 weeks, is almost impossible, especially if we're working on really complex systems. So I think if you have those demos, it holds people accountable, and it also enforces people to work together in trying to integrate the software on the target hardware or on the simulation. So those are some interesting things that I have found that should be covering, like the planning and processes. So we'll end it here, and if you ever need to contact me, you can contact me at acorbin3@gmail.com or acorbin3@fau.com for any questions or anything like that. So thanks.